Firearms registration. The bill has actually been published. There's a lot going on. Let's go over this bill. It's something that you need to be aware of here on this episode of Guns and Gadgets. Hey everybody, welcome back to Guns and Gadgets, your premier source for Second Amendment news. Before I jump into this absolutely asinine, crazy bill, I want to thank Blackout Coffee for making all of this possible. This is my second coffee of the day. It's one of those days reading these bills. Yeah, check out Blackout Coffee. It's blackoutcoffee.com/GNG. Links down below. Don't forget, it is the Valentine's Day sale, and you can save 15% with code Valentine15. Link down below. Also, check out the USCCA. If you're especially if you're a new gun owner, they have a lot of education on there. There's a lot of training on there, and as a member, you also get self-defense liability insurance. And it's always a plus to have attorneys on your side, already on retainer. And instead of actually finding somebody who will represent you. So check them out, guys and gals, uscca.com/GNG. Thank you to USCCA and Blackout Coffee for sponsoring Guns and Gadgets. Let's get into this bill. HR127. For those of you who watch regularly, it'll ring a bell because I mentioned this 3 weeks ago when it was pre-filed by Sheila Jackson Lee, a crazy anti-gun representative out of Texas. And it's a bad one, guys. I mean, I told you back then that we should be concerned about this bill, but there's more to it other than registration. So I figured we'll go through the bill just so you can see exactly what is in here, because there's a lot of people talking about it, but let's know exactly what we're fighting. Here we go. So this is HR127. You can see it on the screen here, and I'm just going to jump through the parts that we need to go over. It's not going to be a huge, long soliloquy, but you can see here it's for licensing of firearms and ammunition possession and registration of firearms. And real quick, it says, in general, the Attorney General, through the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, shall establish a system for licensing the possession of firearms or ammunition in the United States, and for the registration with the Bureau, each firearm present in the United States. That would mean a registration of every gun, not just going forward if this were to ever pass law. This is as written, this is actually an unconstitutional bill, like most of the gun control laws are, because they're all an infringement. But this actually violates standing law. But they don't care about that. This would actually put the onus on you, the gun owner, to send them an acknowledgement of everything you own, and we'll go over that too. So back to the bill. What would be required information? Under the firearms registration system, the owner of a firearm shall transmit to the Bureau the make, model, serial number of a firearm, the identity of the owner of the firearm, the date the firearm was acquired by the owner. I mean, some of us might not be able to answer that on a good day anyway. And where the firearm is or where it will be stored. And a notice specifying the identity of any person to whom and any period of time during which the firearm will be loaned to the person. So guys, if you have a gun and your wife carries it every now and then, or will use it at the range, you would have to put that down as well. Next, the deadline for supplying this information. The transmission required by this paragraph shall be made, A, in the case of a firearm acquired before the effective date of this section, so that's everything that everybody currently owns in the United States, within 3 months after the effective date of this section, or B, in the case of a firearm acquired on or after the effective date, on the date the owner acquires the firearm. So there's a problem right there. I mean, how many guns are in the US? A couple 100 million is a solid estimate. So 90 days. The government, who can't do anything right, within 90 days they're going to be able to handle this, right? No. Now let's talk about this database. In general, the Attorney General shall establish and maintain a database of all firearms registered pursuant to this subsection. The Attorney General shall make the contents of the database accessible to all members of the public, all federal, all state, and all local law enforcement authorities, as well as all branches of the United States Armed Forces and all state and local governments as defined by the Bureau. So that means that the neighbor down the street or anybody who's intent on breaking in your home could just do a little search and figure out what you own, and if you remember the first paragraph, where it's kept in your home. Now let's go to the licensing system. So that was the registration. That's the one-headed monster. Here's another headed monster, licensing. You can see general license. Except as otherwise provided in this subsection, the Attorney General shall issue to an individual a license to possess a firearm and ammunition if the individual, 1, has attained 21 years of age. 2, after applying for the license, you must undergo a criminal background check conducted by the National Instant Criminal Background Check System established under Section 103 of the Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act, and the check does not indicate that possession of a firearm by the individual would violate subsection G or N of Section 922 or any state law. And 2, you must undergo a psychological evaluation conducted in accordance with paragraph 2, and the evaluation does not indicate that the individual is psychologically unsuited to possess a firearm. And 3, successfully completes a training course certified by the Attorney General in the use, safety, and storage of firearms that includes at least 24 hours of training and demonstrates that on issuance of the license, the individual will have, in effect, an insurance policy issued under subsection D. So here we have, you have to be 21. So anyone who's 18 or over, they're going to strip you of your rights to buy, possess, own, touch, look at, drool over a firearm. Number 2, everybody goes through a background check system. The NICS system. However, don't forget that the Universal Background Check Bill is still lurking in the distance. Then you have to undergo a psychological evaluation. And we're going to talk more about that because it's not just that easy. There's going to be a who. Also, it's not just you, but who else they'll subject to a psychological exam because you want a gun. And then there's training, 24 hours of training minimum. It has to be okayed and certified by the Attorney General or the Fuhrer. And then the liability insurance policy. You're going to need to be able to pay for an insurance policy. You're going to need to be able to pay for the 24 hours minimum of training. You're going to need to be able to pay for your psychological exam. You're going to have to pay for this license. Oh, guys, they're trying to basically tax or fee firearms into non-existence. But wait, there's more. Let's say you like to display antique firearms. Well, there's a license for you too. The Attorney General shall issue to an individual a license to display an antique firearm in the residence of an individual if, and only if, the individual is the holder of a license issued under subparagraph A. You must supply proof that the individual owns the antique firearm. You must describe in the manner which the firearm will be displayed in accordance with regulations prescribed by the Attorney General and certify that the firearm will be so displayed. You also have to demonstrate that you have provided for storage of the firearm in a safe or a facility approved by Der Fuhrer for storage of firearms. Now, for those who might have ARs or AKs or any older military style weapons, well, there's a different license for you too. Military style weapons license. The Attorney General shall issue to an individual a license to own and possess a military style weapon if the individual is the holder of the license issued in subparagraph A. Must, after applying for the license under the subparagraph, successfully complete a training course certified by the Attorney General in the use, safety, and storage of the weapon that includes at least 24 hours of training and live fire training. So you have to have the license first off to have the gun, and then a license to have a military styled gun, and there's extra training in addition to that 24 hours. You have to have another 24 hours that includes live fire too. See what they're doing? Now let's talk about that psychological exam. The psychological evaluation. A psychological evaluation is conducted in accordance with this paragraph if, and only if, A, the evaluation is conducted in compliance with such standards as shall be established by Der Fuhrer. B, the evaluation is considered by a licensed psychologist approved by Der Fuhrer. C, as deemed necessary by the licensed psychologist involved, the evaluation included a psychological evaluation of other members of the household in which the individual resides. Let me say that again. A psychological evaluation of other members of the household in which the individual resides. You want a gun? You have 4 kids and a wife. Maybe your mom lives in the house. Maybe your mother-in-law. Everybody gets a psychological exam because you want a gun. You want to hear more about that? As part of the psychological evaluation, the licensed psychologist interviewed any spouse of the individual, any former spouse of the individual, and at least 2 other persons who are members of the family of or an associate of the individual to further determine the state of the mental, emotional, and relational stability of the individual in relation to firearms. Guys or gals, do you have an ex? Maybe you don't get along anymore? Well, they're going to play a big hand in your ability to have your Second Amendment, your constitutionally guaranteed right given to us by the Creator, enumerated in the documents that founded this country. But they get to determine if you get to keep your rights. The next part goes over denials and suspensions of all these different licenses. Oh, and one of the reasons you can have your license suspended is if you don't maintain your liability insurance for firearms in the previous 12 months. And speaking of that insurance, let's talk about that now. In general, the Führer shall issue to any person who has applied for a license pursuant to subsection C and has paid to the Führer the fee specified in paragraph 2 of this subsection a policy that insures the person against liability for losses and damages resulting from the use of any firearm by the person during the 1-year period that begins with the date the policy was issued. And it even says that you'll have to pay $800 for this. So the government is going to tell you what you need to do, how you need to do it, and what you need to pay. That's called extortion. But let's continue. Let's talk about the prohibition on possession of certain ammunition. That's right, this bill just keeps on giving. In general, Section 922 of Title 18 of the U.S. Code, as amended by Section 2 of this Act, is amended by adding at the end the following. It shall be unlawful for any person to possess ammunition that is 50 cal or greater. 50 cal or greater will be made illegal under this bill. It shall be unlawful for any person to possess a large capacity ammunition feeding device. Oh look, a magazine ban is in this bill too. And of course that won't apply to the government, they get to have all their stuff. But let's go down to the definition of what they say a large capacity ammunition feeding device is. Here it says, Section 921A of such title as amended by Section 1 of this Act is amended by inserting, after paragraph 30, the following. The term large capacity ammunition feeding device means a magazine, a belt, a drum, a feed strip, or similar device that has the capacity of, or that can be readily restored, or converted to accept more than 10 rounds of ammunition, but does not include an attached tubular device designed to accept and capable of operating only with 22 cal rimfire ammo. All right, so now I know most of the people out here are saying, hell no, I'm not gonna do it, won't comply, what's the worst they can do to me? Well, let's just tell you what the penalties are that these elites want to impose on those of us who have just been exercising one of our many rights. Here we go. Penalties are, whoever knowingly violates this shall be fined not less than $50,000 and not more than $100,000, imprisoned not less than 10 years and not more than 20 years, or both. And that's just for the license for those. That's just for the license. And then you could also do this. Say you have a couple guns, but you have a license, but you didn't register them, then it's not less than $10,000 per item and not more than $25,000, and you're gonna go to jail for not less than 1 year and not more than 5 years, or both. So there's a lot of bad stuff in this bill, guys and gals, and I hope you watched it all the way to this point because it is important that the filibuster remain in the U.S. Senate. If they get rid of the filibuster, as they have been talking about not only since before the election, but lately it's by the hour. There is a mention by somebody on the Democrat side in the Senate about getting rid of the filibuster. Chucky Schumer, who's now the majority leader, has already been talking about this as well. If they get rid of the filibuster, they would be able to pass this through the Senate with a mere 50-50 vote, and then Kamala Harris would be the tiebreaker. And if you don't think Kamala Harris wouldn't push through anything that Joe Biden wants or anything to restrict us, the legally armed populace, then you're crazy. You're absolutely crazy. That is why it's important to get a hold of Senator Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin is a Democrat who has said that he will not vote to remove the filibuster, and he's also known for being wishy-washy, which means to me that if they put pressure on him on the Democrat side, he'll cave. So hopefully if we can get hundreds of thousands of people calling him and emailing him and showing up at his office hours to have him hold his promise, maybe he'll do it. I don't know. But it's at least worth 13 seconds of your day to make a phone call or send off an email. I'll have his information down below. I've done it in a couple videos. Hopefully people are following through because we need it. We need it. We're a team here. It's time to start acting like a team. Also, again, guys and gals, we are operating on platforms that don't want us. So in order to get this news out, I count on you, the viewer. Please hit the thumbs up. Even though this bill sucks and we all hate it and we hope that the paper it's written on burns, please hit the thumbs up button. It absolutely helps get the news out. It helps break the anti-gun YouTube algorithm. You've heard me say it a bunch of times, but it's true. Also, share this. If you don't share it, YouTube's not going to. So please share this with anybody you know, any group you know. This word has to get out, okay? I told you 3 weeks ago this was coming. The text was released yesterday, and it's even worse than what I was told, and it's like a punch in the gut. So please share this video. If you are interested in Second Amendment news, no matter where it happens, no matter when it happens, good, bad, ugly, or indifferent, I ask you to please consider subscribing to Guns and Gadgets. This is where you're going to find all of this information, and oftentimes it gets us mad. But if we don't know about it, then we are not going to see it coming until it's too late. So please subscribe to the channel and join this growing freedom family. And until we see each other again, please be safe, stay vigilant, and carry a weapon. Take care, everybody.